Hello, TV and movie fans. I'm the movie guru, and in this episode, I want to talk about the Apple TV series The Changeling, episodes 2 and 3. Now, if you're not watching The Changeling, you're truly missing out. So far, they have given us more storyline in 4 episodes than other shows in 2 or 3 seasons. It's just remarkable. The Changeling is a dark fairy tale of New York City, full of magic and loss, myth, mystery, love, and madness, starring Lakeith Stanfield as Apollo Kagwa and Clark Baco as Emma Valentine. If you don't know, the show is based on a book on the same name written by Victor LaValle, who is also the narrator on the show. On this video, we'll be going over the top 10 mysteries on The Changeling. Number 1, Apollo's backstory. Apollo's backstory doesn't seem to be accurate. I stated in my other video, I believe the mom was either already pregnant or got pregnant after she started working at the law firm. Now, yes, in the clips, we've seen Apollo's mother start at the law firm, and Apollo was about 4 years old. But how did she get the job? Google? In those times, jobs were very much who you knew, not replying to an online ad or newspaper. In the story, the narrator said the father vanished. I'm sure that was because when he saw Apollo wasn't his kid, he was out of there. That's why when Apollo had the dream of his father, his face was covered, because even though he knew him to be his dad, deep down, he knew it was not him, and the identity of his father was still a mystery. We've seen a little of Apollo's mother's life after she separates from Apollo's supposed dad, Brian West. While working at the law firm, presumably in the Bronx, one of the managing partners at the firm, who from day one had a thing for Apollo's mom, which he made continued advances at her and even gifted her Sting tickets, while her co-workers teased her, saying that he means everything she does is magic, as if he was bewitched. I use bewitched because we know this is some sort of fairy tale. We see a lot of clips of Apollo's mom from back in the day. Could she have something to do with magic? I believe the law partner is Apollo's father, because even looking at IMDb, his character name is unmentioned, only stating his real name, Albert Jones. Now later, we see her beaten and bruised, standing on the pier with a red suitcase. What happened? We know Brian West, Apollo's dad, is dead, and we heard in episode 2 that the mother told Apollo she should visit his grave. Was the mother the one who killed Brian West? Or was there a fight with the law partner? Or did she find out that young Apollo wasn't her son, and when she was on that pier with that suitcase, was the changeling inside? And was she going to the mysterious fairy tale island that Apollo went to in episode 3, and where Emma is suspected to be? What do you think? Number 2, Improv Bilia. Now, this is more than just a tongue twister. We see Apollo's dad move into the apartment with Apollo's mom with the box with the words written on it. And later, we see Apollo as a teen receive the box after a mysterious knock at the door and is left outside. Inside the box, we see a picture of his mom, which looks like from the time she was at the modeling agency. Was she an actual model? We also see a birth certificate, possibly Apollo's, and a hotel receipt from sometime January 19, has to be 68, maybe 70, possibly all the way up to the 80s, from the Elk Hotel under the name Lily Allen West, with the total paid in cash. Now, was this where Brian West's mother stayed lived, worked. He said in the backstory that we find out from Brian, when him and Apollo's mom was at dinner, they moved from Syracuse. Is that where they stayed? Is that where they lived? Did they own it? We don't have much information on it, but hopefully we'll find out soon. Number 3, blue smoke. From time to time in the series, we see blue smoke come at our main characters. We see the smoke from the father's mouth in the flashback episode, then again under the door when Apollo is in the hospital after his fight with Emma. And I shouldn't even call it a fight, because she just beat his ass. But us watching the show, what is the smoke? What does it mean? Why is it this thick, velvety blue smoke? What do you think? Number 4, numerology. Throughout each episode, we see random numbers that seem to stand out. It started in episode 1 with this giant red 82 written on a garbage can as Brian West walked down the street in the Bronx during the garbage strike. Then we see a 52, another 68. Apollo and his mom stay in apartment 5D. When Apollo's at the airport waiting for Emma to come back, they say flight 873. And Emma's house that burned down when she was a kid was number 32. Now, the numerology hasn't been figured out yet, but if you watch these episodes, the numbers stand out. They're not in the background. They're relatively large and either colored or placed so they're in the frame and they stand out. So I'm asking you guys, what does it mean? The cell phone and disappearing pictures. In episode 2, Emma starts receiving picture messages on her phone of Apollo and baby Brian from a third-person view. After she sees the picture, they seemingly disappear. She tries to show Apollo, but us as the viewers see the pictures disappear just as Apollo wakes up and turns towards the phone. Is Emma crazy, or are these pictures really being sent? Later in episode 3, Apollo goes to the support group meeting, and one of the women in the group explains that she too received strange pictures, but was able to print one confirming that these were real and that they were being sent and that Emma was in fact not crazy. Now, who was sending the pics to Emma? Was it Apollo or was it someone else? What do you think? Egyptian postcards. In Emma and Apollo's apartment, on the refrigerator, we see 2 postcards. Not sure what they are at first glance, but further investigation shows that they are Egyptian statues. Not in a temple, not by a pyramid, sort of placed in a desert field standalone. Now, the picture next to it, we also see a high viewpoint looking down on the street of Egypt. Another connection was when Apollo found a postcard in one of his books. It was from Aleister Crowley, and is an English occultist, philosopher, ceremonial magician, poet, painter, novelist, and mountaineer. He's the leader of the Thelemic cosmology, and that features deities drawn from the ancient Egyptian religion. The highest deity is Nuit, which is a symbolism to the night sky, symbolized as a naked woman covered in the stars, representing the ultimate source of possibilities, which I believe is who Emma wished to be in her third wish and why she took the picture in Brazil. Missing person posters. Throughout episode 1, 2, and 3, we see random missing posters visible in the background of scenes with not only Emma and Apollo, but also in the first episode with Brian West. Now, these posters could have been something to do with 1977 and The Son of Sam and the serial murders of David Berkowitz, who was a serial killer who terrorized New York City. I don't think there is a connection to the show because the scenes with Emma and Apollo are in 2010, but they could just be a time-place reminder for what was going on at that time and other events taking place. What do you think? Who is Cal, the wise moms, and the lady who gave her the chains? Who was the lady that Emma went to visit? Why did Cal send her there? And what was she going to do with those chains? We do know later that she locked up Apollo and put a bike lock around his neck. Were those the same chains? Who is Cal? Why is she on the island? And when Apollo and William arrive on the island, Cal is played by Jane Kazermak. And while there, she asked him, "How did you get here?" Now also, when Apollo and William was on the boat, the narrator also said, "If you crossed into a fairy tale, would you know?" Going back to the first episode, we know from the narrator, the first lines of the show are, "This fairy tale starts in a library." So we know they're in a fairy tale. We know that the story has magical aspects to it. And so why wouldn't the island in the East River be some sort of magical island not accessible to regular people? Is this island invisible? Is this where Apollo's mother was going when she was at that same pier in the past with the red suitcase? Is Apollo's mom more connected to this island than we know? What do you think? Why did Emma's mom set the house and herself on fire? Did her dad actually die willingly? After Emma gets the chains from the mysterious lady, she's walking with her sister, tells her she has that same look in her eyes that her mother did when she burned the house. Emma, not knowing the full story or the true story, talks to her sister, and then her sister explains. In the flashback, we see the dad calmly go back into the house, never to be seen again. Did he really die? In the flashback, it seemed like a normal day. The sister explained that the mother told them they could stay home from school. They fell asleep. They wake up. The house is on fire. Before they leave the house, Emma's mom grabs her and says, "I can't leave them as orphans," which I thought was a weird statement, because shouldn't she have said, "I can't die without them"? Or if she truly loved them, which I believe she did, would she have not wanted to kill them in the first place? So my question is Emma's parents dead or simply somewhere else in the fairy tale? And what else is her sister hiding from her? What do you think? The creature in the water. What was moving in the water of the East River under the George Washington Bridge? The East River separates the borough of Queens on Long Island from the Bronx on the north, and also divides Manhattan from Queens and Brooklyn. Because of its connection to Long Island Sound, we know this because the show takes place primarily in Queens. Somehow it connects to the restaurant that we see Emma and Apollo eat at, as well as Apollo's mom and supposed father, Brian West. And this restaurant is Umbozo. I looked up the definition of what is an Umbozo, and it says a sea-dwelling yokai from a Japanese folklore. The name Umbozo is derived from the character for the sea in a Buddhist monk. The Umbozo is said to be a vengeful spirit of a priest who drowned at sea. The Umbozo is associated with bad weather, such as storms and tidal waves. And in the intro, we see that it was a creature that attached itself to the ship. So if you go back to the first episode, and the narrator is telling the story of the Quakers that crossed the ocean and they almost crashed, and he says they had help. If you look at that scene, there's something in the water that sort of, I thought, jumps onto the ship, but looks like holds the ship up so that it can crest the wave and make it through the storm. And then there's a shot from under the water, and it kind of looks like seaweed or something like that. Mystery is just, it really is this dark, mysterious figure. And what do you think it is? What's up with William? In episode 3, we're introduced to William. Bald-headed, man with glasses, with some connection deeper than what he leads on. He finds Apollo at the support group meeting, and after Apollo runs out, he follows behind him. How did he find Apollo there? Why was he there? Then later, he goes to buy the book that Apollo found in the house that was put on sale by his friend. And why did he buy that book? He said that he was buying it to give to his daughter so his daughter would take him back. But we find out later that wasn't true. Is he really an app developer? His whole story is questionable after we see him outside of the art gallery in Norway. Why was he in Norway? Then seemingly playing tricks with Apollo outside of the museum, where he clearly walks to the left behind a large flag. But then when Apollo follows, he appears on the right. Then he plays with Apollo a third time when he sends him the mysterious text message from an unknown number saying that Emma is not dead and that he knows her whereabouts. And it's on an island in the East River. But what he didn't say, a magical island that's not accessible to just anyone. So how did he find this island? How did he get there? And what is he really up to? What do you think? Vampires. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but there's a couple of clips in the show that point to there may be more than just witches. And one is when Apollo looks at his phone when he's talking to William in the diner. If you look at the information below it, it clearly says vampires as well. And then when he's on the boat with William, William says, putting this information out there can let anyone in. You can't let a vampire in if you don't invite them in. Now, I know he was referring to his friend Patrice, but I do think that he's referring to himself or another type of creature that's in the night. What do you think? And last but not least, of course, Emma's third wish. We know the first two, but we do not know what she could have possibly wished for in her third wish. Somehow, her friend at the dinner decided to tell Apollo the wishes and everything that transcribed, and even what the first two was: a good husband, a healthy child. Now, she didn't go into detail in the third wish, but she said during that scene she's trying to tell him what the third wish without telling him. And then what she explained was a picture in an art gallery in Norway, and she looked like a sorceress. Now, from that statement, it could either be a couple things. She wanted to be a model. She wanted to be a famous model. She wanted to be some sort of rich person. Or she wanted to be the sorceress, based on the Egyptian religion for the deity Nut that I said earlier, which is the night sky. I thought if she did say she wanted to be a witch or a sorceress, that there was a body switch between her and the washerwoman in Brazil. So originally when she came back, it kind of seemed like she wasn't aware of all these things, wasn't aware of the city, and didn't know the life that Emma had previously. And I kind of thought there was a body switch going on. But it doesn't really seem to be the case, but it could be. But it seems more was a story of the baby not being a baby, which is what a reoccurring theme we hear during the show. We see Emma say it's not a baby. We see the random screaming man on the street scream it's not a baby. We hear the woman at the support group meeting say it's not a baby. So what is it? What do you think? So these were just a few things that stood out after I watched episode 2 and 3. I did say I was going to take my time with this because it's very deep. A lot of history involved, and they're covering a lot of ground and giving a lot of content in just 4 episodes. So I'm up to 3. I'm getting ready to watch 4, and I'll do another breakdown. But instead of doing a regular scene by scene explanation, I decided to do like a top 10, kind of summarize it and mix in some of the information. So I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys enjoyed. And these are just a few things that I saw that I wanted to talk about. And of course, as always, I love to talk to you guys about it in the comments. So please, if you like this video, drop a like and also subscribe. So when I do episode 4 and 5 that comes out this Friday, of course, you'll be notified. So I am the Movie Guru. And on behalf of Movie Guru Media, I thank you guys for watching this video. And I'll see you on the next one.